I'm Paul Zigo. This is Cinema for Cynics, here with Chauncey. Got a question for all of you. Have you ever been suckered by a movie? You been suckered by a movie, Chauncey? I have. I got suckered by a movie one time. Most of you probably never have been. The movie that suckered me was the Blair Witch Project. And the way that it suckered me, it suckered me into believing that it was real on some level. Not since, Orson Welles did the War of the Worlds radio broadcast do I think that a piece of fiction has suckered people so well. And I don't know that it'll ever happen again the way it happened with the Blair Witch Project, but I wanted to talk a little bit today about how the Blair Witch Project suckered me and what that was like. The first reason that the Blair Witch Project was able to sucker me was due to its ad campaign. It didn't have a normal horror movie ad campaign. It was presented as real. I remember the tagline was, in 1996, 3 college students wandered into the woods near Burkittsville, Maryland to shoot a documentary on the Blair Witch. They were never heard from again. 2 years later, their footage was found. Rather than promoting the film as a scary movie, as a horror movie, they promoted it almost as a documentary about what happened to these kids. They even had supporting things, like they did these mini documentaries on the Sci-Fi Channel that interviewed like family members and professors and people from the town.
She was energetic. She was very creative. She was someone who I think reminded me of myself really a lot at her age. She was looking to develop and find her voice. Plus she was interested in documentaries, which my own background is in documentaries.
It really was presented like this was real. Now, I was young enough to believe it. Not everybody was suckered by the Blair Witch Project, but quite a few people were. Another reason that people were suckered by it was the casting choices. It was a very low-budget film. The Blair Witch Project was made for about $60,000, ended up making about $250 million at the box office. And they used completely unknown, normal-looking, everyday kind of actors. They used people from the little town that they shot near as extras in the movie, which really lent a sense of authenticity to the film. Nobody was model hot in this film. They all look like people that you might bump into on a college campus somewhere or in a little town. But really, the movie sold its bullshit to me on the day that I went to see it in the theater, on opening day. I took a friend of mine, after having watched all of the little mini documentaries that I could about the movie, to just see what this was going to be. Because walking into it, you really had no idea what the Blair Witch Project was trying to be or what it was going to be. We wanted to see the first showing, and when we showed up to the theater, there was a line, a gigantic line, and we weren't able to make it into the first showing. Tons of people stayed and waited through the entire runtime of the film, myself included, to see the second showing of the movie. And it was when the people started coming out of the first showing that I knew I was going to see something very different. When you're going to a movie that's very popular like that, full theaters, when people come out, there's a chatter. People are talking about the movie, what they liked, what they didn't, laughing and discussing it. The people that came out of the first showing of the Blair Witch Project were fucking solemn. They were just absolutely quiet. It was eerie watching them kind of file out, not really knowing what to say about the movie, not really wanting to talk to any of the people that went and saw it with them. That feeling of dread just ramped up as they let us in to the theater finally. And the first thing that hit me about the theater was the smell of puke. Not just like a hint of puke, but like multiple people had very recently puked their fucking guts out in the theater. I mean, it just permeated the air and everybody could smell it in the theater. And it caused people to be more quiet than you would expect. This was a full fucking theater, and there was just barely a murmur of people talking. It's also the only time I've ever seen a movie that came with a warning at the beginning of it, which I don't know if this was part of selling the film, or if this was something that the theater was doing to try and prepare people for what they were about to see, but it really fucking worked. Before the movie even rolled, the house lights came up, and a theater employee walked out and gave a speech to everybody. They said that this movie is disturbing, and if you find yourself being disturbed, please make your way to an exit. This movie can cause motion sickness, so if you start to feel ill, close your eyes or get up and make your way to the exit. It was all, the audience was just enraptured by this warning that we were given. I could tell that nobody else had ever been given a warning about a film before. And then the movie started. And the authentic performances, the found footage style, which was invented by the Blair Witch Project, by the way. The reason that the found footage genre of horror is called found footage is because of the Blair Witch Project. The conceit is that people had found these college students' footage out in the woods. And as I watched, the audience was a participant in the film in a way that I don't really think I've ever seen happen in another film. Everybody was worked up about it. Women were screaming, men were screaming. I saw people leading people out of the theater all throughout the showing as the action ramped up. And leaving, once again, it was just a solemn procession of people. I don't know that a movie will ever sucker people like the Blair Witch Project did again, but having had that experience is something that I'll never forget. And it's something that I chase after when I go to the movies, even if I'm never going to get it again. So what about you? You ever been suckered by a film? Were you suckered by the Blair Witch? Let me know in the comments. And make sure that you follow Cinema for Cynics on Twitter and Facebook. I just set them up. We'll be communicating with you there. So thank you all for watching, and I hope you had a good time with this video. And I hope you get the chance to get suckered by a movie once. I'll see you next time. Thanks.
All right, enough of that bullshit. What did Chauncey think? Chauncey.